Hello, welcome everybody to our Clapfoot development dev stream for Foxhole or whatever the hell
Yes.
Matt says, because Matt is not here today.
Yeah, he's
So
sick.
I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm like just winging it. So if the stream is like a crapshoot, it is Matt's fault for being sick. Are we on agreement of that?
Yeah, tell him to stop being sick.
Yeah, that's good.
Tell him to get back to work and make 100 new maps.
Yeah, you better do that, man. Anyway, how is everything, Mark?
Good. Facility efficiency.
Jesus, is that how we're opening up? Like,
Yeah, facility efficiency.
No foreplay, no lube, no anything. Just like,
No. Just getting straight to the main event, which we're going to talk about facility efficiency for 1 hour and then we're going to leave.
Okay, so I'm just gonna leave you talking. I'm just gonna leave.
No, I'm just kidding. Facility efficiency is a hot topic, and there's been, the one thing that I do want people to see about it is that we're learning some new things, and I can already hear a lot of we're learning that efficiency sucks type of comments, but
Like it only took you guys like I don't know how many months to learn that.
but we're seeing mixed things. There's issues with efficiency, but we're also seeing some things that are cool. We've heard some players say that they're happy that they have the room to do longer term, more persistent things in the world. And then obviously we've seen some of the other feedback, which is that the stalemates are too harsh, and things of that nature, right? But efficiency, as we've said, since we introduced it, is always a work in progress. And in update 34, there are going to be further changes, and probably update 35 and update 36 will have more changes. It's a moving target that where we're figuring out how to address issues like being able to have a comeback, but obviously we want to do that in a way that doesn't cause stalemates that aren't fun, right? Because it's really important to note that one of the biggest feedbacks that we've gotten earlier this year is that there's no point in playing if you're on the losing end after 3 days in a war. We actually heard that like over and over again, right? And we saw that too, right? Like there's just like almost every war, once you start to lose some ground, there's never really a chance of a comeback, right? So we tried a couple things in the past. We kept trying until we hit the point of, okay, now there is a swing back, but there's a couple things we should keep in mind. This is like a single like data point, right? This is the first time this has happened. So there's more things that we can learn from it, right? And it's good because we finally hit that wall where it's like, okay, now we actually see a swing back happening, and now we need to take the next steps to like further tune how this stuff works, right? So I hope that we can all see this as part of the learning process and part of what will eventually have a balance and a pacing to the war that allows for these comebacks, but also can feel a bit more like fluid, right? That's the end goal, right?
Hopefully, everything works according to plan.
So rest assured, there are some changes coming. We know that there's issues of like these very limited recharge points in the war where the efficiency just gets like chewed up really quickly, and if you log in at the wrong time, then there's not much. Like we're well aware of these issues, and you'll start seeing some changes in the next update, and it's not going to be perfect, of course, and then we'll keep the ball rolling, right?
Cool.
So that's actually it for efficiency. We're not going to talk about it for the entire stream.
Jesus. So anyway, we're actually gonna.
That was loud.
That was very loud. We're gonna start like we always start. We're gonna start with the community highlights preview, which for the people that don't know, community highlights the blog post that KFC does. Kind of like gathers everything cool that our community has been doing. It could be in the form of a song, could be in the form of illustrations or writings, and we're seeing lots and lots of like newspaper-like illustrations. So like that has been going on for quite a while. So you get to read them all in the blog post that should probably hitting later this weekend. This week, sorry, like on Thursday or Friday, something like that. But I'm gonna highlight a couple of the things that are there because there's some really cool stuff. So let me see, how do I do this? There you go.
Nice.
I am learning. So yeah. Oh, this is pretty cool. I have to see if I can. If I get to do. Yeah.
This is so cool.
Yeah. Can you press play for me?
Yes, I can. Should I full screen?
It says it must be repaired.
It's okay.
It's 100%.
It might be a little bit too loud.
Keep repairing.
Okay, it's 100%
I'm actually gonna
now.
fast forward it slightly.
Packaging now.
Packaging out. Get it.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So-
And I'm gonna move it up a bit because it's
So this is really cool.
BG, I think you need to be
This is a video that showcases like the sandbox nature of the.
artillery range in that.
Oh, can't see anything. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I made a mistake. I forgot to do this. Yay!
Bridge.
There you go. This is a pretty cool video that showcase like the sandbox nature of the game. So this tank got like trapped into this fallen bridge, and then like kind of like it was like forward, and then end up like sliding backwards, and then they're trying to save this tank. And after like a long period of time, like they were able to do it, which was really cool. So like it took like I don't know how many people, like 30 people, like just like working together, making sure that they're trying to save this battle tank, to make sure that like it's a huge investment, so they don't want to lose. And it's a really cool video. I don't know if we have the
And the
YouTube link in there somewhere for people to see, but it's really cool.
Yeah, the crazy thing was this was happening like very close to a combat zone. Like
Oh, yeah.
you could hear the battle in the background.
Oh,
and
if you go to the beginning, more to the beginning of the video,
I will read.
like more like
There?
1 minute or so, probably like, yeah, around there.
Okay.
You can see that like the tank is being shelled,
It's being shelled, yeah.
and then so they're trying very quickly to fix the tank at the same time,
Yeah.
and to make sure that they're packaging it so it can be picked up by the crane, but the crane also gets attacked. So it's a whole operation, and
Yeah.
it was really nice.
And that's what I find so cool, and why I love it when we add sandbox tools like the crane, because these really wonderful like moments are able to happen, right? Like this isn't like a canned like mechanic, right? Which is why I think it's so cool. I'm just so glad that we actually got to like battle tanks, right? Battle tanks aren't common.
They've got the.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
So it's that was the whole point, right? Like that's why it was so important
Yeah.
to actually have it like safe. So yeah, that's really cool. I guys should watch it. It's totally worth it. I'm gonna move on to the next stuff. This is superior. So this is also another cool thing. A lot of people from like press corps and other endeavors that they're like deal with like radio like or newspaper. They have been writing a lot of lore, like their own lore, which is also always amazing. So this time, what is really cool is that Superior made this kind of like trading cards of their own players, but more in the Foxhole, inserted in the Foxhole lore, as if they were baseball cards nowadays.
Yeah.
But they are like these fighters and things like and people like that are living, breathing into this world, and so you
Right.
can find these trading cards. You could be able to find these trading cards of people. There's people that became legendary already, and people would like trade them out. I think it's really nice.
That's really cool.
This is so Roger Mojo is saying that this is not by Superior. So who is it? Who is it by? If we misattribute it, Yeah, just let KFC know, and then we're gonna change it. Apologies if it's not superior. So yeah, it is absolutely cool.
So what's this? What's this rank?
I don't know. I think this is the rank of the card itself.
Ah,
You
gotcha.
know how in Commander Rod made them. Okay, so Commander Rod is another top bloke. Has been doing amazing stuff since
Looks
forever.
really cool. Yeah.
So yeah, the rank, if I'm not mistaken, is just like in other. You know how in trading cards you have like rare and stuff like that. I think that's what it is. It's again, I like the way it's showcasing. I like the way it's set up, like the design of it, the concept. It's really really cool. I would love to see more of these for like different factions of our game, different clans and different people that like achieved some sort of notoriety
Yeah.
in the game.
Absolutely.
You know? It's really really cool. Third thing is, as per usual, Press Corp doing like a kick-ass job with their newspaper. You can read it like the whole thing at in the community highlights blog post. You'll be able to read each and every one of them.
You know, I feel like their production values just keep on getting better. Like it's not always obvious, but when you look at it, it's like I feel like they are more visually polished than they were previously, or maybe I just I don't know, maybe just really polished. That's why I think that way. But but they feel like they're getting more and more like.
You mean like art in general, or the Press Corp bulletin?
The Press Corps bulletin.
Yeah,
like,
I think that what they're doing now is that like it's getting more like a traditional newspaper. One of the things that here's my graphic design background coming here in his head. One of the things that we had to study is like what are the different visual identities of the different newspapers, and they have very specific ways in which they portray information. What kind of pictures they put, where they put it, how they format their paragraphs, what kind of typeface that they put, what is the differentiation between the top headline and things like that. So like
Gotcha,
there's
yeah.
several different like small visual cues that like make a newspaper look like a newspaper.
Yes.
And I think that Press Corp, maybe when it started, it was a little bit, it didn't look as much as a newspaper. And I think that they've been like being more critical and like on how they format.
Yeah,
this
it's
first page
it
to
looks
make it look more like a newspaper.
really polished these days, and
It's really really cool.
it's really impressive.
And on the right there from Maranova, the Savage Defender, the fashion special. I thought it was really really cool. This one also made the rounds in our office a little bit. Like I think I could totally see this in like a magazine, like not in the front, not in the battle, but like
Right.
on the back lines, on the cities that are safe and sound when they like glorify war a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, let's look at what these soldiers are wearing at this season and whatever. So I could really see that as being a magazine. I absolutely love it.
You know, I have to go back and make a comment about the Press Corps newspaper, which is that the ad space there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If clans could advertise, they could request space, right?
On their Press Corp.
That would be
newspaper.
really cool.
That would
Yeah.
be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really sweet. And last but not least, because I don't think any week is a Devstream week without a lot of anime. We have these three illustrations, and I gotta say, I absolutely love the top left one by Torano. It's I think captured. My girlfriend was like, "Why do you have the crazy eyes?" She looked at the illustration. She was like, "Why do you have the crazy eyes?"
Yeah.
But I think he really captured our essence
I
very
mean,
well.
at first I thought it just wasn't finished.
No,
Like,
I think it's
you
like
just start like, yeah.
no, it's like
Oh,
you.
because like you're a god, right?
I don't know if that's godlike or more like insane like.
Right.
As you can see, Matt is the only one that knows how to behave like a normal human being, and he always closes one of his eyes because he has to see around, to look around.
Yeah.
I think it's like such small details that most people don't pay attention to.
Yeah, it's
like
really
that
cool.
he has to close an eye to look around. I think that Mummy, I gotta be honest, the one to the right there, that is, it's a shame that Matt is not here today, because this is one of the illustrations that more encapsulates the world of Foxhole,
Yes.
like in a very clear way, very simple, very clean.
Yeah.
Like what we wanted out of the world of Foxhole, without showing battle, without showcasing any like
Yeah.
war scenes per se. And I think it's amazing. It's like
The
a
farmer and the soldier.
yeah, like
basically.
somebody having to pick up arms when somebody invades your land or something
Yeah.
like that. I think it's really good. And last but not least, Louis is just an amazing drawing, like professional quality, kind of like SD chibi character. Like it's really well done, really well shaded. You would see that easily on a keychain or something like that, and sold on Anime Expo or something like that. And I hope I see, if you ever, Louis, if you ever do a keychain or something like that, please send it our way.
Cool.
Send it to me. It is really cool. So yeah, like mad props to everybody that actually like contributed to this community highlights. I think the quality of the highlights continue to impress me. You guys are gonna see there's some amazing stuff in the blog post, so check it out. And if by any reason like you see the community highlights and you don't see your stuff there, bother KFC, send it to him. So hey, I made this stuff. Why didn't it get in? And we might have just overlooked it because we love seeing your things. So yeah,
Cool.
I think we're gonna move on to developer update, the part that everybody wanted to.
Yes.
take
So
away.
I'm gonna start by reviewing these notes that we start to review at the beginning of every stream this year, which is to just give you a rough idea about what we're working on right now. So we're wrapping up our trench warfare series of updates with update 34. That will sort of be the last of the core features for trench warfare. We're obviously going to continue to add new content to the base building stuff, but that's sort of when we're going to focus on other. After this, we're going to start focusing on other parts of the game, right? Which then brings us to the spring update, which we're probably about a month and a half or so away from that, if I had to give a very rough estimate, subject to change. And I think then we'll start to focus on some other parts of the other game. Hopefully we'll see some logistics changes, and hopefully we'll see some new content, some new exciting things in areas of the game that we haven't touched for a while, because the base building has been just such a huge focus for the last quarter to half a year. I would say half a year isn't.
Development.
I think half a year actually at this point is quite accurate, because we started late last summer, right? So that's gonna be something to look forward to. And I always like to flash this roadmap slide for a few moments, and not much has changed there, except for one small thing there that you can see: squad storage under update 34, which is this experimental feature that I was hinting at in the announcement post for this stream, right? So to get further into it, so this is an experimental feature, and we sort of we're very torn up on this feature when we came up with it, because it's something that we tested to some degree a long time ago, some form of it, and it didn't work out quite well. But the game was very different back then, and just because things didn't work out exactly like how we wanted to, it doesn't mean we shouldn't try another approach here, because we feel like there's certain cool things that we see happening from things like operation stockpiles, right? Or being able to hold more resources in your refinery queue. Some of those things we don't like, and we're probably gonna put more constraints on those things in the future. But there's a lot of really great things that we're seeing too, right? Like more expanded logistics operations that can happen when you can plan further ahead, when you have the capability to like organize your supplies over a longer period of time, right? Because the ultimate goal with logistics is we want to like empower players. And I know the game is like the logistics game is not this right now, really. And I know you're gonna want to point out all the things that should be like addressed, and we are addressing as many of those things as we can. But one thing we also have to look at, on top of addressing the stress points that we've been hearing about, is also ensuring that we're building a fun game there moving forward, not just merely making tweaks to end up with a tolerable game, but we also need to make sure that we're building something that is fun, right? And part of the fun of logistics is being able to feel like you're not always like drowning in logi, right? That you're able to plan ahead, be smart about things, and feel empowered to supply various towns, feel empowered to plan out like an operation. These kinds of things, that's what we think is fun. And the stuff that we don't think is fun, which we actually like agree with you guys on, is things like having to drive across like two regions. Just these really long, sort of like boring tasks, and all these like pain points that we agree are not necessary, like things, workflows that are clunky, right? Like, having to deal with like a resource container, and having to deal with having to like pull things out, and everything takes so much time, right? Like these sorts of things, we fully agree that these need to be addressed. And on top of that, we want to make sure that we're not just looking to address these pain points, but to also build a fun game on top of that, right? So having said all that, this is going to be a highly experimental feature that might not even stay in the game. Something we want to probably test across like a couple of wars, see how it's going, and if it's not going the way that we want to, then we're either going to change the feature or maybe even like pull it, right?
Of course.
But like efficiency, if we don't try, we're never going to know, right? So squad storage basically is an evolution of operation stockpiles, and the gist of it is that if you're in a squad now, you can store a large amount of crates and vehicles in a squad stockpile, right? So it allows you to stage crates and vehicles for an operation, or just allowing you to have that as part of your storage network, so that you have this flexibility, right, to actually plan ahead, right? So a couple of basic rules. So anyone from your squad can access this stockpile. The retrieval time is basically non-existent, so you can instantly pull from it, right? You can do it at like any time, right? So it's not operation stockpile where you have to wait for this certain time. You can just go there, take what you want. You can put more stuff in, and example, the larger your squad is, the more it can hold, right? So if you have like even 5 people in your squad, that's 250 crates. And these numbers are like moving targets,
Yeah,
so they might
we
change.
don't promise to,
but
it's going to be exactly like that.
you know, if you're a giant clan, you know, if you're you know, if you're like an 82 DK or something, then you'll literally be able to hold like 1,000 crates. And if you're willing to utilize multiple storage depots, you can hold like more than 1,000, right? And lots of vehicles. So hopefully this will. Well, actually, you know, before I talk about what we hope will happen, let's just go through the rest of it. Basically, how the UI works there is you go up to a storage depot, you can make a squad storage if you're in a squad, and then you can choose between looking at the public and your squad stockpiles, right? And it tells you there the limitations of it, and yeah, so on and so forth, right? So there's a button there that if you want to release your stockpile, you can. You hit that. There's another button you hit that allows you to like release your stockpile. That it just instantly
Transfer to
puts
public.
everything. It just transfers to like public, right? So
Yeah.
if you're checked out for the war, you're not going to play anymore. You can hit that button and it transfers over, right? So this is the first of the limitations I want to talk about is that only crates and vehicles marked as squad storable can be submitted to squad storage, right? So these are what we deem are vehicles and equipment that you created yourself, right? So you can't just go take things from a public stockpile, throw it into your own, right? We don't want. The game is ultimately about working together, and the point of this is not for you to hoard, even though I know the obvious issue that everyone is going to be thinking about is hoarding. But the thing we want to push into is not hoarding. The thing we want to push into is to make sure people can, we can like empower these players to do longer term planning. We want to empower players to be able to be smart about things, right? I'll get more into that. But basically, only newly produced vehicles and crates from personal factory queues are squad storable. And anything that has been submitted to a public stockpile is definitely not squad storable from that point forward, right? Squad storage contents are automatically transferred back to the public stockpile after 48 hours. But as long as you're playing the game, as long as you're active and you're like interacting with your storage depot, you can extend it by an additional 48 hours. So basically,
so the timer can be refreshed, basically.
it can be refreshed. So if you leave the game and you don't come back, eventually things will end up back into the public storage depot. But if you're playing and you're managing things, you're managing these stockpiles, then you should be able to keep this flexible storage, right? So what are the outcomes, right? So a bad outcome will probably be if everyone's just, I'm just going to hoard everything, right? And I'm going to see this as like, we're never servicing any of the public like depots anymore. In that case, I don't know, we might have to pull this feature or severely change it, right? This is why like it's experimental, right? The hopeful outcome is that things mostly stay the same, but now players that want to plan longer term, like plan a large operation, they don't have to jump through a million hoops. They don't have to do a million like backflips just to plan their operation. Hopefully they can just plan it and do it.
Yeah.
And it will start seeing these cooler things be more accessible to more players. Another hopeful outcome is that if players know that they can rely on forward storage depots, we hope that smaller logic groups are going to be able to be smarter, be able to play a more sophisticated logic game where they aren't just driving across 2-3 regions, right? Where they can do larger hauls to storage depots at the front, knowing that they can rely on those depots, right? So that, when they're servicing the front line, they can pull from their network instead of every time they log on, they have to start all over and be like, well, now I have to like drive 2-3 regions across because there's those storage depots at the front are not full, right? Or they don't have what I need, right? Like right now, there's no way to continue your work. I mean, there are some ways. I won't say there's no ways. If you're willing to dedicate a lot of time, a lot of effort, you can sort of play this logic game where you are able to keep all those storage depots populated, but it requires like so much effort. And I think the average like smaller group or even a solo player will never be able to tap into that level of planning for logistics, just because there's no way to persist your equipment. There's no way for you to build a network. There's no way for any of that. You always come back to nothing, right? So yeah, we'll see how this goes. And again, I really want to emphasize this is an experimental feature. I want us all to treat it as we're learning something, and if it doesn't work out, then who knows? Maybe this will be gone, right?
Well, it is what you guys make out of it.
Yes. So don't screw it up. And finally, I think the next stream we're finally going to be ready to talk more about this spring update and some of the cool, exciting stuff that's going to be happening from there. So that's all I got.
That's it. And then is it time for a Q&A? Okay. So as you guys can see, this was like a more of a short dev stream. So if you guys have any questions, start asking them now. I'll try my best to pull my matte face. So with this and ask questions very quickly. Let's see. Hingo McCringle, do the members have to be online and in the same map to count for squad numbers?
No. No. They don't have to be online. They don't have to be in the same map. As long as... So we don't really want, like... There was a lot of back and forth on this. And the squad storage started off much more restrictive than it is now. Like, it was like every player counts as like 3 slots instead of 50, and like players have to be online, and players, if you leave, like there was all these restrictions because we were so nervous about like, we don't want people to hoard, right?
Yes.
But what we concluded was, the game is in like early access right now, right? Instead of worrying so much, why don't we just give people the power? Give them the flexibility, give them the power, let them do the cool things, right? And then if they screw it up...
and then you fix it up, yeah.
If they screw it up, no. But then if it doesn't work out, right, then we can change it. But we won't really find out the cool things that could potentially happen if we're just always worried, right? So we said, screw it. Let's more or less give people more slots than they can use, right? Mm-hmm. And then have a bit of restriction on it, because I think things shouldn't be just purely unlimited. I think everything in the game has some kind of cap. So we said, okay, let's just pick a very high cap that's reasonable, right? And then we'll let people use it even if their squad mates like aren't online, right?
Fair enough. I think that there's a question that kind of ties up into it by Victor Kip. Do one-player squads have squad storage?
Right now, yeah. So
nice.
Even, again, this goes into that. We said like, yeah, we're worried. Is it gonna turn into a shit show? Yeah, we're still worried about that. But again, let's just give players the power first, right? And then it's always painful for us when we have to rein back on this stuff, because people get really upset when we do. But
to be fair, people get upset anyway. So
that's a good point. Well, I think it's also like, I'd rather find the answer, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather find the answer, and that the future game is going to benefit from these answers. So yeah, just let the solo player, and plus a lot of solo Logi players are always saying that, we don't want to support them, and this is our way of saying, we want to support you, right?
Yeah.
So because we've been playing like a lot of Logi, right? Like a lot of Logi over, especially myself, like personally, like a few weeks ago, I spent a lot of time playing Logi, and I experienced all the pain points that you guys experience, and I agree with so much of what the feedback that has been. A lot of people have been sending me like documents and like very long like, essays about that stuff, and I agree with the pain points. I think on top of those pain points, though, I really feel strongly that like I'm very constrained. I want to do, besides those pain points, I want to do more, right? It's not just fix the pain points so that it's not painful. I also want to do more, right? I want to be able to like look at the map and be like, let's look at my supply network. How can I be smart about this? How can I plan ahead for like tomorrow so that when the front line moves, I'm going to be ready for that move and I'm not driving like 3 regions across, right? And this exploration is hopefully we'll find, I don't think it's going to be a silver bullet. Absolutely not. There's always trade-offs, always compromises in Foxhole, as you guys know, but I'm hoping this exploration will help find some answers that will help us, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There was another question that was kind of like also more of a explanation by Swat. Oh my God. This is a Waletic Diablek. I don't know how to pronounce that thing. Jesus Christ. That's a hard name. Is squad storage located separately in every storage depot, or can you access from any depot?
It's separate.
It's separate, right?
Yeah,
so
so it
like you
doesn't-
have to have like set.
Yeah, it doesn't magically like teleport. So you can actually store more than 50 if you utilize most regions have at least 2 storage depots. So in a single region, you can store 100, right?
So you can make a chain of like you go from one to another, basically
Yeah.
moving things forward or backward.
Yeah.
Or like,
So in like a really large operation, like a really, really large clan operation, if you have 1,000 crates, right? You might have to split it up into 2 depots, but who knows? Maybe you'll have enough players that some of these clans are big enough that it's pretty much like unlimited storage, right?
Fair enough. That also ties in with some other questions, and there was a fair amount of people that asked that if that is that is a preview of what we can see for clan to actually supporting clan features in the game. Not only that, but also like clan tags and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely plans to do that sort of thing. And it's just, that's more like a time and place. But I think we're probably going to have, we talked a bit about this late last year of having like a regiment system, a clan system of sorts. And I think we will support that. We're, with the communication tools, we actually have some work to do with squad still, but there is sort of this larger group organization question that we're trying to answer. But we're figuring out still what's the best way to do that, because a lot of these features are very resource intensive to like develop, right? Especially these like really UI heavy type of features, and we really want to drill down into exactly what will help players the most. Which it sounds super obvious, like, oh, of course, like make what helps players the most. But when it comes to the communication tools, it's very nebulous, because what you think you need is often not what actually is needed, right? And there's a lot of traps. You can go off and spend a month building this giant thing.
And by that we mean us. Like what
Yeah,
we,
no, I don't
what-
mean. Yeah, no,
what
I don't
we
mean you
think-
guys. Yeah, I
what
don't
we
mean you
think
guys.
You guys need is not
Yeah.
necessarily what you guys actually
Yeah.
need. Actually, in most cases, you guys know way better than what you need, and end up finding other ways to supply your own needs.
Yeah.
And then we spend a lot of time developing those things, because it's very hard from our perspective to know exactly what you guys need in regards to clan features.
Clan, well, I would say the larger umbrella of like social.
Social,
right?
yeah.
Social. Like I think something like adding a clan tag, that's entirely relatively straightforward thing
Yeah.
that should just happen. But I think things like, you know, where like should there be some like voice integration there, or should there be a way that you can lock things in the game to your clan and things like
Or your name on Steam. and things like that.
yeah, I think those are much harder questions to answer, right? So
So Ilmarin, yeah, we know that you've been asking for ages for clan tags, and yes, we are adding squad storage first. It doesn't mean it's not coming. You know, we're a very, very small team. We gotta juggle. Okay, Synth Reaper. Since you asked 10,000 times, and I swear to God, if you do this again, I'm not gonna answer your questions just by spamming. Yes, I read it. Mark, do you think that the light tank economy is at a point where you think it's ready?
sorry, the what economy?
The light tank economy. And he's not talking about
Light
game
tank.
playing or armor versus armor.
Then what's he talking about?
Then what are you talking about exactly, Sin Reaper? If you give me some more, I might actually ask. How much it costs to run it and to produce it and all that. Like,
No, I don't think it's final. No, I think we want to find better ways that these things can be made, especially if you're willing to put a bit more preparation time into these things. No, I don't think any of that stuff is. I don't think any of that stuff.
are you happy with it? Is like the time that it takes for you to prepare and to it and to actually the usage that you get out of it? I think I correct me if I'm wrong. I have a feeling that there's a lot of mid tech that sometimes might feel like it's not worth the effort to run it if you are waiting for the next one.
I think the petrol is a pain point. Especially when you have to when you have to burn the petrol just to drive it to where it needs to go. I think that's something that we want to take a look at, because it's these are part of the this umbrella of like unnecessary pain, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of that I think we need to take a look at, right?
So
for
maybe,
sure. Right?
I actually, somebody asked, would petrol, do we know if petrol is gonna be locked, would be able to store in the squad storage?
Yeah. So what we're doing is there's gonna be more details on this. So I won't
Get too deep into it?
Yeah, right. But essentially, you're gonna be able to when you're refining things, you're going to have the option to receive them as I'm spoiling a lot of surprises here, guys.
Don't do it then. You don't have to answer.
So it's let me just leave it at this, okay? You're going to be able to receive it as crates or as normal materials. And then we're going to have to address some of the pain points around materials and crates. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Do we have time for at
Maybe
least one or two more?
Maybe one or two more, yeah. No questions? All right.
No, we had some, but like for some reason my page refreshed, so I lost the history. Cowboy X was asking. It was more in regards to, I guess, talking about efficiency, since we're talking to Logi and things like that. So he's asking if we can have separate factory queues. He went from sending 30 crates out of a day to 10 to 15 because there's too many people queuing off. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. We're gonna review the factory queues. I'll leave it at that. We think it needs to be reviewed, and we do see it as likely something that needs change, or at least we need to take a long, hard look at.
Cool. There's a question that I think is more of a technical question. I think it's an interesting one to answer. Might have some insight on how we do things. Wraith is asking, why don't we have the ability to remove bridge completely and open up the waterways for more naval activity? Then we have to spend twice as many BMS to build a new to replace the now removed bridge.
To replace the bridge.
So because right now, like the bridge breaks and then it falls down, nobody can pass it, but nobody can pass it on the waterways as well. So maybe a second stage of that would be to completely destroy even the remnants, so that nobody can pass it through on foot, but it will be able to pass through water, like as a waterway. Because it is kind of like a...
Yeah. I mean, that's there's a couple of things to think about there. I'm wondering how that would play out. Would people just start destroying bridges completely just so they could pass through and things of that sort? I don't know. It's an interesting thought, having that third state. I actually haven't, to be honest, I haven't really given that much thought at all. So,
me neither, because
it's kind of a neat idea.
It makes sense, right? Like you have two factors. Like one is like we have like on foot and on foot and through water.
Yeah.
And then when we open one, we have right now we have both open, or we have both closed, instead of also being able to have vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I mean, I don't think it's a problem. I just think just really haven't get it. I think it'd be cool if players could actually like make more bridges, or perhaps be able to like drive a mobile bridge there and like deploy it or something. But anyways, that's kind of getting off topic.
Calmore.
Last one.
Oh, last one. Well, this is not the last one, because he's asking about any plans, or is it high priority to rework current sounds in the game? Matt is our sound guy, so come back again next Devstream, ask him. I don't think it's high priority right now, because we do have things that are higher priority. We have all these things that are what we consider polish in the game, like more emotes, like different sounds, and like better visuals and things like that, and even smaller things, quote unquote, like clan tags that are not necessarily 100% hard to do, but it requires some development time, and it would greatly benefit from having lots of other systems in place. So these are probably going to come closer to 1.0 actually. Last question, but ask him again next week. Okay, this is an interesting one. The official CHAS, please add the ability for the bus driver to kick bad behaving soldiers out of the bus.
The bus is an interesting one. We didn't think anyone would use it, and it's still not that common, I know, but I've seen it used in several occasions, and anytime I've seen it used, it blows my mind that people just want to play as a bus driver, right? I think the actual utility of it is a situation when your forward base gets destroyed, or rather not gets destroyed, but if it runs out of soldier supplies, and everyone falls back to the base that is further back that has soldier supplies, but they want to save that base at the front. I've seen cases where someone just literally drives a bus like back and forth for like hours, shuttling players, and apparently that's the thing. I mean, that's why we made it, but we sort of like,
we didn't expect to actually.
It was a bit like, much. I mean, it wasn't really a joke, but it was kind of like, meh. I don't really think anyone's going to use it.
But it works, right?
But it works.
I think that touches on a topic. I like this as the last question because it touches on a topic that is a little bit more interesting to me as a general topic. Is like how to find ways in game to not necessarily punish, but to deal with behaviors that are not considered good behavior, like bad behavior, from other players, without relying on like kicking somebody from the game. I have a very personal, and that is again very very personal opinion on kicking people from the game and banning people. So I'm always very happy to find ways to deal that in-game, with in-game lore, with in-game tools that are still sort of role play. I think that's actually really really nice if we find ways like that. And I think the ability to kick somebody out of a bus, I think just thinking about it is kind of a funny idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I like that idea very much. Keep them coming. Anyway, thank you very much for sending in all your questions. If you want to actually ask questions live, but you're watching this on YouTube, join us on twitch.tv/foxholegame every second Tuesday, 2 p.m. EST. Otherwise, you can just ask us questions on Discord, which is discord.gg/foxhole. There's, again, this is going to be archived, but check out our dev blogs that happen the other weeks. We have a bunch of stuff like to try to communicate with you guys. And one of those things is our podcast that happens on the weeks opposite of this Devstream, which is Clapfoot After Dark, which is like me, Matt, and Max. We just talk about random things, and it's just more of a loose, free-form podcast. It's on twitch.tv/Clapfoot. It's not on this Twitch, it's on a different Twitch. And it happens all on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST on the weeks that the Devstream is not on. Except for last week because I had a little family emergency to deal with. I apologize for that. But next week we're going to be on. I think that's it.
Cool.
Well, thank you very, very much, everybody. I think Matt says something at the very end. I'm not exactly sure what it is.